Why was Moses' son erased from history? Welcome back to the Bible Insights channel, where we peel back the layers of biblical history to reveal the mysteries hidden within the ancient texts. Today, we're embarking on a fascinating journey into one of the Bible's most enduring enigmas. Why was Moses' son erased from history? If you've ever flipped through Scripture wondering about the elusive fate of Moses' sons, Gershom and Eliezer, you're about to dive into a story full of intrigue, historical context, and theological depth. Grab your notepads and settle in, because this exploration will challenge what you thought you knew about one of the Bible's greatest figures. Moses is a towering figure in the biblical narrative, prophet, lawgiver, liberator, and his extraordinary relationship with God has shaped the course of history. Yet, when we turn the pages of Exodus and beyond, we encounter only fleeting mentions of his sons. In Exodus 2:22, Moses names his first son Gershom, declaring, "I have been a stranger in a foreign land." Later, in Exodus 18:4, his second son, Eliezer, is introduced with the poignant reminder that, "My father's God was my helper, and this God who delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh is also able to deliver me." Despite the significance embedded in their names and the intimate glimpse they provide into Moses' personal life, these brief appearances raise a profound question. Why did the biblical record seemingly erase these figures from the grand tapestry of Israel's story? To unravel this mystery, we first need to consider the context in which the biblical narratives were written. The primary purpose of the scriptures was not to document every personal detail of its heroes, but to showcase God's mighty acts and his covenant with his chosen people. Moses' life was marked by divine intervention, from his miraculous rescue as an infant from the Nile to his climactic encounters with Pharaoh and his leadership during the Exodus. The narrative was crafted to spotlight God's hand in history, emphasizing themes of deliverance, law, and covenant, rather than the intricate details of his personal lineage. Consider the monumental events that define Moses' legacy. His encounter with God at the burning bush set him on a path that would forever alter the destiny of an entire nation. The miraculous plagues, the parting of the Red Sea, and the covenant established at Sinai all underscore a singular divine purpose. In this sweeping narrative, the intimate family details, while personally significant, naturally recede into the background. The biblical authors had to make deliberate choices about what to include and what to leave out. In doing so, they placed the focus squarely on the fulfillment of God's promises and the emergence of a new identity for the people of Israel, rather than on the succession of Moses' own lineage. But that's just one facet of the mystery. Many scholars and theologians have long debated whether the omission of Moses' sons was a subtle editorial decision made by the ancient scribes. Imagine for a moment the complexities faced by these early writers, who were not only recording history, but also conveying theological truths to future generations. Their task was to craft a narrative that served both as a historical record and as a moral and spiritual guide. Including elaborate details about Moses' sons might have inadvertently shifted the focus from Moses' unique role as God's chosen instrument to a more human concern of lineage and inheritance. It's possible that the biblical authors intentionally minimized these personal aspects to maintain the purity and singularity of Moses' divine mission. Let's dive deeper into the significance of their names. Gershom, whose name echoes the experience of being a foreigner or stranger in a land that was not his own, encapsulates the transient nature of Moses' own identity during his early life in Egypt. His name is a constant reminder of the exile and alienation that marked his journey from the land of his birth to the harsh reality of his destiny. On the other hand, Eliezer's name is imbued with gratitude and recognition of divine deliverance. In a world where names carried immense significance, often reflecting one's character, destiny, or divine favor, these two names stand as subtle yet powerful testaments to the personal trials and triumphs of Moses. However, While these names echo deep personal meaning, the biblical narrative does not allow them to evolve into full-fledged storylines. This omission might suggest that Moses' sons were never intended to be seen as the inheritors of his mantle. Their roles, as hinted in Scripture, were not to continue the prophetic and leadership legacy that Moses himself embodied. In pondering why Moses' sons are scarcely mentioned beyond their initial introduction, we also have to consider the nature of biblical historiography. The Bible, particularly the Torah, is a theological document as much as it is a historical record. The authors and redactors were focused on revealing God's relationship with his people rather than constructing a detailed family saga. This approach is evident throughout Scripture. Compare Moses' story with that of other patriarchs like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whose familial narratives are richly detailed and play crucial roles in the unfolding of God's promises. With Moses, however, the narrative deliberately shifts away from family continuity and focuses on a broader divine plan. It's as if the omission of his sons' further stories is a narrative strategy, one that underscores the idea that true legacy is not measured in descendants, but in one's fidelity to God's calling. Another layer to this intriguing puzzle is the notion of leadership succession. In many ancient societies, leadership was passed down through a hereditary line. Yet, when we look at Moses' life, we see a man who was chosen by God for a very specific purpose, a purpose that was not meant to be inherited or continued through biological descent. The absence of a detailed account of Moses' sons could be seen as an intentional move to prevent any later generations from contesting or diluting the uniqueness of Moses' calling. It was as if the biblical narrative was saying, Moses was chosen, and his mission was singular. It cannot be replicated or passed on by mere bloodline. This perspective aligns with the broader theological theme that God's work is accomplished not through human effort or lineage, but through divine intervention and grace. Scholars have debated the historical and literary reasons behind the scant treatment of Moses' sons for centuries. Some propose that the focus on Moses' individual relationship with God served a dual purpose. It elevated Moses as an unparalleled prophet, while simultaneously discouraging the idea of a dynastic succession that might have shifted the focus from divine authority to human lineage. In this light, the erasure of detailed accounts of Gershom and Eleazar from the broader narrative may have been a protective measure, ensuring that the emphasis remained on the covenant between God and the Israelites, a covenant that was meant to be eternal and unbroken by the vicissitudes of human heredity. Furthermore, this omission invites us to reflect on the transient nature of human identity compared to the eternal nature of God's promise. In a world where many look to family lineage as the ultimate marker of legacy, Moses' story challenges us to consider that true legacy is found in one's adherence to divine purpose. While genealogies in the Bible often serve to establish rights, inheritances, and even divine favor, Moses stands apart. His life and mission were not meant to be chronicled in the traditional familial sense, but rather to serve as a timeless example of faith, obedience, and the transformative power of God's call. Imagine the implications if Moses' sons had been given equal narrative weight. Would we be discussing a dynastic line of prophetic succession, or would the human elements of pride, rivalry, and political maneuvering have overshadowed the divine narrative? It's plausible that the early biblical authors made a conscious decision to keep the focus on the miraculous deliverance of the Israelites, the giving of the law, and the forging of a national identity that transcended familial ties. This editorial choice reflects a profound theological insight that God's work in history is not a matter of human inheritance, but of divine orchestration. By erasing the extended story of Moses' sons, the text reinforces the idea that leadership and spiritual legacy are granted by God, not passed down by human descent. As we consider these perspectives, it becomes clear that the mystery of Moses' sons is not merely a historical curiosity. It is a window into the very nature of biblical storytelling. The omissions in the text force us to grapple with the idea that history, especially when it is divinely inspired, is as much about what is left unsaid as it is about what is recorded. In leaving gaps, the scriptures invite us to explore, to question, and to seek deeper understanding of the overarching themes of faith, obedience, and divine purpose. Every time we encounter a narrative gap, like the fleeting mentions of Gershom and Eliezer, we are reminded that the human experience of faith is complex and often shrouded in mystery. This enduring mystery continues to spark debates among theologians, historians, and biblical scholars. Some argue that these omissions reflect the narrative priorities of the ancient compilers, while others see them as deliberate theological statements meant to redirect our attention from human genealogies to God's sovereign will. It is a reminder that even in a text as revered and meticulously preserved as the Bible, there are layers of meaning waiting to be unearthed. By contemplating the absence of Moses' sons in the broader narrative, we are invited to reflect on the nature of legacy itself, a legacy that is defined not by the continuation of a family name, but by the enduring impact of faith and divine destiny. I'd love to hear what you think about this intriguing topic. Do you believe that the biblical authors intentionally minimize the roles of Gershom and Eliezer to preserve the singularity of Moses' divine mission? Or is it possible that the details of their lives were simply lost to time, overshadowed by the grand narrative of the Exodus and the establishment of Israel? Each possibility opens up a rich field of inquiry into the nature of biblical authorship and the ways in which we understand history. The interplay between what is recorded and what is omitted can be just as enlightening as the stories themselves, prompting us to question, explore, and ultimately deepen our understanding of the Scriptures. If this deep dive into the mystery of Moses' sons has sparked your curiosity, then join our growing community of truth seekers by hitting that like button and subscribing to this channel. Your engagement not only fuels our journey into biblical history, but it also helps foster a dialogue that spans cultures, generations, and traditions. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's discuss together what this mystery might mean for our understanding of legacy and divine purpose. Every comment and question is a piece of the puzzle, and together we can illuminate the shadows of history. Thank you for watching this episode of the Bible Insights channel, where we challenge conventional narratives and explore the depths of biblical mysteries. Remember, the quest for truth is a journey without end. Each question leads to deeper insights and greater understanding. So, if you're ready to continue exploring the hidden corners of biblical history, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Together, we can uncover the timeless lessons woven into these ancient texts and discover how they continue to inspire and guide us today.